most of you probably haven't heard of. I haven't met anyone else except me who's played it, like in real life. Like, I don't know anyone personally who's played it. It's pretty fun. It's like a roguelike. I didn't know that it wasn't officially launched until recently. Like, I've been playing the early access, I believe, or beta or whatever it was, for like the past year or so. So I didn't know, but this is a really fun. I believe there's co-op to it, but I've never played co-op with anyone. But like the single player is pretty fun too. But I just think it's interesting because I just saw recently on my YouTube feed. I'm like, oh, this game fully launched. I didn't even know it wasn't fully released yet. I was like, oh,
On
oops.
everybody, Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at Ravenswatch, specifically its 1.0 release, as it is finally leaving early access, or I should say did a couple days ago on the 26th, after spending about a year and a half there. Now Ravenswatch, if you have not heard of it, is a roguelike action RPG that plays around with a lot of fairy tales and fables, putting you in the roles of characters like Little Red Riding Hood, Sun Wukong, Beowulf, the Pied Piper, that kind of thing. In order to progress your way through various nightmares, as it were, fighting off enemies as you go, completing quests on some randomly generated
Playing
maps, advancing
Scarlet's Red
both
Riding
as
Hood,
you
she's
take
so
on
fun.
these individual maps, but also overall as you increase your character's level or the character you are playing as, unlocking skins, their own story, etc. as you go. Starting at the beginning a little bit, however. First, you'll pick what character you want to play as. You'll start with just a few of these guys unlocked, but as you complete...
Oh yeah, Beowulf or whatever his name is, Beowulf. He's really fun to play too. It's like a warrior, but like you have dragon and like a dragon who shoots fire and stuff.
chapters with the heroes you have, you'll unlock the others. There is a total of 9 of them. And then you're going to pick the difficulty you want to play on, which starts off small, and then you can work your way up to harder difficulties. And you can also choose to add modifiers to a map. These will, of course, make things more difficult on you generally, meaning you can mix up the challenge and whatnot as you go.
Yeah,
But
like your
then, as you've
typical
seen at the bottom of the screen there, I'm
type.
sure you have the option to join a multiplayer team. You can play this with, I believe, up to 3 others, or completely solo. It's fine either way. But I imagine just the addition of co-op is going to give this one a lot more legs than it would have otherwise, as it...
Yeah, I've never played it co-op, but even single player it was really fun. Like I definitely think combat wise it's like one of the most fun roguelikes. Sorry, I couldn't think of it. It's kind of similar to like how Hades feels, except Hades is a little bit more fast paced than this, where this is more like I guess like tactical, like, oh, you know, dodge to the right to dodge the attack, and then like take a like bite out of them to heal if you're gonna be tanking it. Like depends like what play style. Like at least for like Scarlet, that's how it was. Like I played her a lot, like Red Riding Hood, quote unquote, is like who she's supposed to be based off of. But like basically you could either play like an assassin when you were playing her, but then you could turn into a wolf and you'd be like more like a bruiser, and it was like kind of fun like that. Where like in Hades you kind of just like go in with just a sword or a bow or whatever weapon you're using at the time. And obviously, yes, you had like abilities and like the god's blessings, but it's just like it kind of feels unique because it feels like you have to like you're with this like you're doing a certain build, and it's like kind of they're usually like a hybrid build. Like for example, like Beowulf is kind of like a magic swordsman, not just like a warrior.
does seem like the kind of game that's fun to mess around with. But once you are actually in a game, let's talk a little bit about what's happening here. So your goal basically is to spend about 3 days prepping for the coming of a nightmare, at which point you'll then
That's
fight that
also a
nightmare,
huge
though
difference.
you can speed that up if you are, say, ready beforehand. But otherwise, you're going to take your character and try to do as many activities, etc. across this map until that particular point comes. Now, each of these characters play a little bit different. The sort of default one starting
But you guys see what I kind of mean, where it's like more slow paced.
out, Scarlet, or the Little Red Riding Hood, turns into a werewolf at nighttime, as the game does have a small day-night cycle. Now, some of these events are pretty much what you'd expect. Fight off a bunch of enemies for loot, currency, shrines, etc., but the rewards, both in terms of the experience gained causing you to level up, as well as some of the rewards you'll find as loot, come down to talents and dreams. So talents are essentially your main bit of progress.
Yeah, so like talents are like your form of blessing if you're going off like Hades logic, or like even like in any other game, they're like your perks.
As you level up, they modify your skills in some way. You can think of this like Hades or any other number of
Literally what I
roguelite
said.
action RPGs at this point. but you'll also be picking up currency
It's
that you
not
can take
pre-watched.
back to a vendor towards the start of an area and purchase talents from
I'd be
that
falling asleep
character
then.
as well. But really that's just part of it, because there's all sorts of events and things you can find along the way. Little quests you can undertake, basically. Now, one of these that I ran into was trying to help one of the 3 little pigs gather enough stone to build up their house before nightfall and a bunch of monsters come and attack them, which I did not manage to do in time. And despite failing, it made me laugh enough that it was still worth the experience.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So, like, basically what he's talking about is, like, you defend these piggies from, like, these monsters. So it's like a defend quest. It's kind of like those defend quests in Helldivers 2, like where they run into the buildings and then you have to protect them while they're doing it.
As far as I'm concerned, sooner or later, no matter how good you are at this, you're going to pass away, let's say. But death might not necessarily be the end of your run, because you get a bunch of raven's feathers that can bring you back once per feather for your runs. Now, I believe you can buy some more of these at some point in the middle of a run, but once these run out and you can no longer revive yourself, that's when you'll finally be kicked out of the run, so to speak. And
yeah, the feather revive kind of works like the Warframe revive, Jesus, but you have way less. You don't have like 8 or 5 or 8 or whatever it was. And it kind of works like Hades when you have that second life blessing. Or whatever it was. I haven't played Hades in a bit. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Tossed back to the main menu. However, as you get farther and farther along the game's 3 chapters with each individual character, you will start to unlock more and more of their story. For instance, Scarlet, or Little Red Riding Hood here, is the werewolf in this particular instance, and one of her...
Yeah, like you can obviously collect them, like the further you get, I believe the more raven feathers you collect. I haven't played this game in a bit. Like, I've played it a lot, but not recently. I've just been so busy with other games. But, like, see how it says 7 death's doors? I believe that's how many times he's had to revive himself and die.
Stories explains how she had a big fight with her grandma and left before all of the nastiness went down, let's say. So even story-wise, they've put a few fun spins on it, but let's talk about the combat specifically. So as you might imagine, each of these characters has their own style, but they all can kind of be divided up into a few generalities. Each character has a basic attack, a power attack, a defensive ability, an ultimate, and like a special. But
yeah,
then
all of
what
them
that
are pretty
character
like
is and
hybrid.
does tends to expand a little bit on
I thought I paused. They're all like hybrid all-rounders for the most part. Like, obviously they have specializations. Like, I never played the Piper, but like, for example, Scarlet is more like an assassin, and then she can turn into a healing, bruising tank. And then there's like then he's like a magic, Beowulf is like a magic swordsman, but he's still like, he has a shield, he has a way to like, sustain, and he has a way to do hyper damage. And then I've never played the Snow Queen, but I know she does, like, she's just like an ice mage basically, which I'm sure most of you could assume.
that. So as an example, Beowulf uses like a little worm that follows him around to augment his abilities, whereas Scarlet
Did
turns
bro
into
just
a
call the
werewolf at night,
dragon a worm? He called that dragon a worm?
completely changes her moveset. So
That's
as
crazy.
a human being, she can sneak around and avoid detection, throw bombs, but then as a werewolf, she can activate a big roar, which gives you a lifesteal effect and allows you
It's a
to
taunt,
pounce on enemies
too.
for extra damage in melee. So you can kind of play around with that back and forth as the game shifts from day to nighttime. Whereas the Pied Piper instead uses things like salt.
Yeah, like if you guys play this game, like if you guys try this game after this video, Scarlet is the one you want to play first because she's just so fun and engaging, and the play style is just like, it'll be similar to other roguelikes because most roguelikes you're kind of playing like an assassin warrior, but you'll feel more powerful because of the werewolf form.
And a swarm of rats, as you might imagine. Now, around level 5 or so of playing any individual map, you'll eventually get access to that character's ultimate, which is of course a giant ability that often sort of changes the landscape of the individual fight that you're in, so that's worth knowing. So when it comes to mastering a character, you've got to, of course, handle all of their basic abilities and understand how they play, but then also be able to build up a build from all the talents and things you gain as you're leveling, before ultimately confronting the boss of a given area. These are much larger fights that tend to have actual mechanics and will put you to the test. Now, you can summon these guys early if you
Yeah,
think
that's the right for it. It's a very mechanical, like tactical type of roguelike instead of like super fast paced slaughtering through enemies.
you're ready for it. Otherwise, you just want to level up until the clock runs out and they get summoned. But as you try, fail, try again, you'll unlock more and more progress for those characters, including new talents and things that become available to allow you to vary up your build and of course perform better and better each time until you ultimately find yourself clearing it out and moving on to the next difficulty level, which again can all be done entirely with friends if you prefer. So when you put all of that together, I think you've got a pretty compelling little indie ARPG, but mostly I would describe it as a sort of odd amalgamation of a lot of different roguelites and ARPGs and things I have seen in other places sort of thrown together into an interesting mix. Though I'd say the main thing to be aware of right this second at launch time is that probably a bit unsurprisingly, it does seem that they are having a little bit of trouble with their multiplayer servers at the moment. So if you're specifically wanting to play multiplayer, you might want to hold off a little bit until they get those stabilized before fully jumping into it. But otherwise, this seems like a great game to simply kill some time, or even just to play with your friends. But I think that is pretty well going to wrap up this particular video. I just thought this game was kind of neat and worth talking about, so I wanted to give it some attention on the channel.
Yeah, this game, I'm honestly, like, I know I said that, like, I don't know anyone who plays this game, but I think that more people should be playing this game and know about this game. This game is super fun, and, like, it's just, like, one of those games where you can, like, kind of chill, watch, like, a YouTube video on your other monitor or on your phone, and just, like, have fun. Like, it's kind of like that old, like, back in the day fun. Like, and when I mean back in the day, I just mean like when you were younger, like in like 2012 or something, when like, you know, like COD was good, and like when, you know, a lot of other games and Halo was good, etc. Like, it's like one of those games where you can just sit down and you can just like relax. And like, yes, it's like there's tension in the game, but it's not like, oh my god, man, it's Tarkov and I just lost like all my shit. Fuck. You know what I mean? Which, like, for me, that, like, Tarkov, like, that stuff, like, I don't really care when I lose stuff, but I know a lot of people do, is my point. Like, I'm just saying, like, this is a nice game where you can just hop in at any time and play for, like, 10, 20 minutes, and then go do whatever else you want to do. And it's not, like, it's actually fun. Like, you're not just sitting there, like, yes, playing the game. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually fun. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.